Welcome to Stormy Log 2, the series in which I take you through the business and development of my ancient Mediterranean-themed board game powered by cutting-edge typesetting software, while blatantly ripping off the vocal inflection and delivery style of Ben Awad. If you haven't watched the first episode in this series, it's probably a little worse quality. I wasn't as rich and famous on all platforms back then, but I would still go check it out just so you're up to speed. Unfortunately, this week the shareholders are going to be very disappointed because progress has been at an all-time low. Fortunately, though, I haven't IPO'd yet and there are no shareholders. I've been roadblocked for about a month, and when I say roadblocked, I don't mean the typical playing into the JIRA lingo for your middle manager's benefits you can get out of doing work. For one, I'm my own middle manager on this project, and I can see right through that corporate bullshit. And second of all, I use Kanban, not Jira. The roadblock actually has nothing to do with my programming abilities. I have the software all set up pretty much to take a spreadsheet and convert it into done game assets, which for me are cards and little gift tokens. And all this really involves is taking a spreadsheet, reading it with some kind of software, which is just Python for convenience for me, and then passing it through the types compiler with a little template. And you can pass arguments straight to it. Everything compiles in 10 seconds, and it's all dandy. I've got all the card text, all the values put in the right places, all the art, all looking good. The problem comes with the actual game design itself. So you have an idea of how the game works. Basically, you play as one of a few ancient Greek heroes, and Paris is the hero everyone is chasing. He starts off with Helen of Troy, or who he thinks is Helen of Troy. You're all looking for Helen of Troy all over this board, but there's a ton of fake phantom Helens, and only one real one, which is like face down. So you're kind of hunting for this real Helen the whole time. You're sailing around Cyprus, navigating through the stormy seas using this special wind mechanism that changes the difficulty of moving certain directions based on seasonal winds. So it'll be very easy to sail in and harder to sail out. And Paris starts off. He sails away with Helen and some extra loot. And as you come into the board, what you're trying to do is make alliances with these different cities, or you can end up destroying them for loot, or you can end up just visiting them and not really interacting either way, just receiving some hospitality gifts for them. So as you go, you're kind of collecting information about where the real Helen might be, you're collecting more and more gifts, and you're potentially collecting alliances/sacked cities, which are worth fame. What you want to do by the end of the game is have the most fame, and Helen will give you a huge advantage towards that, but you could still win by destroying a bunch of cities or having just a ton of riches. You're kind of capped out at the amount of gifts you can carry by the boat design, which holds different tiers, heavy, medium, and light, of cargo that can be filled up to the brim. For a long time, the dice system was borrowed straight out of the minimal and friendly children's game Arkham Horror. Basically, in that game, you'd roll 6-sided dice, and for every 5 or 6 you roll, that would count as one success. So we would use that within combat when fighting other players or trying to sack a city or fight against pirates, and also when you try to make an alliance with a city or try to sack a city. This worked pretty well for a while, just getting everything set up, but it turns out it's very boring and very random, and you get totally uncontrollable outcomes because people just kind of no skill get lucky or not get lucky, and it's just kind of bland and uninteresting. So I tried for a long time tons of different stat systems where characters have between 3 different attributes: wits, charm, and might, which basically are strength, intelligence, and charisma, I guess. Your ability to do the different actions of the game. The problem is it's actually very hard to cram this all together, to have multiple systems using the same kind of dice. And I tried many different combinations to try to get this all to work. I was playtesting for a long time every day with my Polish friend Charlie and Greek friend Jake, but then unfortunately, as the school year ended, I left to travel around Italy and Greece for an archaeological internship, and then from there I went to London, and then ended up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I'll return to Vermont at the end of the summer, and I'll be able to keep working on the board game side of it. But my problem really has not budged at all. Maybe someone in my audience has experience designing these kinds of things and wants to reach out to me for help. I would appreciate that. The plan currently is to continue development into next fall. The requirements for the dice system are more complicated than I've laid out here, and I might go into more depth in a future video. But I do want to keep this rather on the technical side because that's what my average viewer is more likely interested in. Something that I do want to work on is automatic rule set generation using types. If we're using rule books that are changing slightly based on balance changes, like maybe a character gets 1 point stronger in a certain stat, or you roll different symbols on the dice, if those are all plugged in via command line arguments to the PDF generation, it'll be very convenient to iterate on a set of rules. All we need is kind of the basic structure, and everything else will be filled in for us. On the business side of Stormy Seas, one guy said in one of my comment sections, "When is your game coming out? It would make a great Christmas present." And that means that I have now confirmed 3 sales. To fulfill my childhood dream of becoming a billionaire, that sets the minimum price for the game at $333 million a copy, or roughly the same as one maxed out MacBook Pro. Unfortunately, I am counting myself in those 3 sales, but the money would just go right back into my pocket, so that means I could buy as many copies as I want and then distribute them for free, which would be great press, honestly. That's it for this week. I'll let you know if someone reaches out to me or if I reach out to someone and we are able to figure out the mechanics and move on to another stage. I think it would also be very helpful to work on getting this on some kind of board game simulator so that it can be tested by people online. That way we'll have a much bigger playtesting pool.